Hi, my friend. Welcome back to our YouTube channel for English learners. I'm very happy to see you here again. Today, I want to tell you a very special story, the story of Albert Einstein, one of the smartest people in history. But before we start, I have a small favor to ask. Please like this video, comment below, and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. Your support helps us grow and brings more amazing stories to you. All right, let's begin the amazing and inspiring journey of a boy who became world-changing genius. Albert Einstein was born on March 14th, 1879, in a city called Ulm in Germany. His parents were Hermann and Pauline Einstein. They were a normal, middle-class family. His father was an engineer, and his mother loved music. From the beginning, Albert was different. He was a quiet baby. He did not speak until he was 3 or 4 years old. His parents were worried. They thought maybe something was wrong with him. Some people even said he might never talk. But Albert was not sick. He was just thinking in a different way. He liked to be alone. He would sit and look at things for a long time, thinking deeply. He didn't speak much, but his eyes were always curious. He was watching the world and asking questions in his mind. One day, when Albert was about 5 years old, he got sick and had to stay in bed. His father brought him a small compass to play with. It was a simple object, but for Albert, it was magic. The needle always pointed in the same direction, no matter how he turned it. He was shocked. Why? Why does the needle move like that? What is making it turn? Albert asked his father, but he couldn't explain it fully. That compass became one of the most important things in Albert's early life. From that moment, Albert started to fall in love with science. He wanted to know how things worked, not just what they looked like. But school was not easy for him. Albert started school in Munich, Germany. He was a quiet and serious student. He liked to learn at home more than in school. The teachers were very strict, and they wanted students to memorize facts and follow orders. Albert didn't like that. He wanted to ask questions. He wanted to understand things deeply. But many teachers didn't like students who asked too many questions. Sometimes, Albert would sit and think about a question for hours. He didn't care if the answer was in the book or not. He cared about the why and the how. Other students called him strange. He didn't play sports. He didn't talk much. He preferred to read books, think about numbers, and play the violin. Yes, Albert loved music, especially classical music. His mother taught him to play the violin, and it stayed with him all his life. When he was sad or tired, music helped him feel better. Although school didn't make him happy, Albert kept learning on his own. He read science books and math books that were too advanced for his age. By the time he was a teenager, he was already thinking like a scientist. But his journey was just beginning. Albert Einstein was not like most children. While other students listened to their teachers and followed the rules, Albert always wanted to know why. He didn't want to just learn facts. He wanted to understand the truth behind them. At school, this caused problems. His teachers didn't like students who asked too many questions. They wanted quiet, obedient boys who did their homework and kept their mouths shut. Albert was not like that. He was curious, and he often challenged his teachers' ideas. He didn't do this to be rude. He just wanted deeper answers. Sometimes his teachers got angry. One teacher even told him that he would never be successful in life. Another teacher told him that his questions were a waste of time. But Albert did not stop. He continued to read books at home. He studied math and science, not because he had to, but because he loved it. When he was about 15 years old, his father's business failed, and his family had to move to Italy. But Albert stayed behind in Germany to finish school. He was very unhappy. He missed his family, and he didn't like the way his school worked. One day, he decided to leave school without telling anyone. He took a train and went to be with his family in Italy. This was a big decision. He had no diploma, no job, and no plan. But Albert had something more important, a mind full of ideas. His family supported him, but they also worried. What would he do with his life? Albert decided that he wanted to study at a university in Switzerland, where the schools were more modern and less strict. But to get into the university, he had to pass an entrance exam. He was only 16, and most students were older. He failed the first exam. His math and science were excellent, but his language and history were not strong enough. The university told him to finish high school in Switzerland and then try again. Albert agreed. He went to a new school where the teachers were kinder and more open-minded. He did well, and after graduating, he was finally accepted into the Swiss Federal Polytechnic School in Zurich. At the university, Albert felt more at home. He enjoyed the freedom and the focus on thinking. He still didn't always agree with his professors, but he was happy to learn in his own way. He studied physics and mathematics, and he dreamed of becoming a professor. He worked hard, but he wasn't the best student in the class. Some professors didn't like him because he was independent and didn't follow their teaching styles. When Albert graduated, he hoped to get a job as a teacher, but no one hired him. For 2 years, he searched and waited. He wrote letters to many schools, but the answer was always no. These were difficult times. He had no money, no job, and no clear future. Finally, through a friend's help, Albert got a small job at the Swiss Patent Office in the city of Bern. He was now a technical assistant, reading and reviewing patent applications. These were documents where inventors explained their new ideas. This job wasn't exciting, but it gave Albert time to think. He did his work during the day and in the evenings. He read books, took notes, and thought deeply about science. He called this his happy time, even though it wasn't easy. In the year 1905, something incredible happened. Albert wrote and published 4 important scientific papers in just 1 year. These papers were not just good, they were revolutionary. They changed the way scientists understood the world. One of the papers was about light and explained that light might behave like both a wave and a particle. This helped scientists later discover quantum physics. Another paper explained a strange idea, that space and time are not fixed, but can change depending on how fast you are moving. This was the start of what Albert called the theory of relativity. But perhaps the most famous paper of all was the one where Albert wrote the simple equation, E equals mc squared. This equation means that energy and mass are 2 forms of the same thing. A small amount of mass can become a huge amount of energy. At first, many scientists did not understand or believe Albert's ideas. But slowly, people began to see that his work was correct. He had written these papers while working at a small office job, with no laboratory, no big salary, and no team. Just a desk, a pen, and a brilliant mind. Albert was only 26 years old, and he had already changed the world. After the year 1905, Albert Einstein's name started to appear in science magazines. Scientists began to notice his ideas. Some of them were surprised. How could a young man working in a small patent office create such deep theories? But Albert's work was different. It made people think in a new way. In 1909, just 4 years after publishing his famous papers, Albert was offered a job as a professor at the University of Zurich. This was a big change. He left his office job and became a full-time scientist. He was very happy to teach and do research. Students liked him because he was kind, simple, and full of energy. He didn't act like a big, proud professor. He explained difficult things in easy words and encouraged students to think for themselves. Soon, Albert moved from Zurich to other famous universities. He worked in Prague, then returned to Zurich, and finally moved to Berlin in Germany in 1914. There, he joined the Prussian Academy of Sciences and became one of the top scientists in the world. But while his career was growing, his personal life was facing problems. Albert had married a woman named Mileva Maric, a scientist from Serbia. They had two sons together, but their marriage was not happy. Albert worked long hours, and the couple argued often. In 1919, they officially divorced. Later that same year, Albert married his cousin Elsa. She took care of him and supported him as his fame continued to grow. In 1915, during his time in Berlin, Albert completed his most important work, the general theory of relativity. This theory explained how gravity works not as a force pulling objects together, but as a curving of space and time around massive objects like stars and planets. It was a bold and complicated idea. Some scientists didn't believe it until something amazing happened. In 1919, there was a solar eclipse. During the eclipse, British scientists tested Albert's theory by observing how light from stars bent as it passed near the sun. The results showed that Einstein's theory was correct. Suddenly, Albert Einstein became famous around the world. Newspapers everywhere wrote about him. He was called a genius, a new Newton, and even a miracle mind. People who didn't know anything about science still knew his name. He traveled to many countries: England, America, France, Japan. In every country, people welcomed him with respect and admiration. But Albert was not just a scientist. He cared deeply about peace and human rights. World War I had just ended, and Europe was full of pain and destruction. Many countries were angry and poor. Albert spoke openly against war and violence. He believed in peace, education, and freedom. He also supported Zionism, a movement that wanted to create a safe homeland for Jewish people. Although Albert was not religious, he was proud of his Jewish background and wanted to help people who were suffering. But his open ideas made him enemies too. Some people in Germany did not like him because he was Jewish and supported peace. He began to receive threats, and life in Berlin became more dangerous. Still, Albert continued his work. He wrote books, gave lectures, and helped young scientists. He believed that knowledge should be shared, not hidden. But the world around him was changing fast, and trouble was coming again. In the early 1930s, the world was becoming dangerous again. In Germany, a political party called the Nazis was gaining power. Their leader, Adolf Hitler, hated Jewish people and blamed them for Germany's problems. The Nazis believed in war, control, and fear. Albert Einstein, being a Jew and a man who loved peace, was now in serious danger. In 1933, Hitler became the leader of Germany. The Nazis started attacking Jewish schools, businesses, and people. Scientists, teachers, and artists who were Jewish lost their jobs. Some were arrested. Some disappeared. Albert was in America when Hitler came to power. He quickly understood that he could not return to Germany. His home was not safe anymore. The Nazis even burned his books and called him an enemy of the country. So, Albert decided to stay in the United States. He accepted a job at a new research center called the Institute for Advanced Study in Princeton, New Jersey. He moved there with his second wife, Elsa, and this became his new home. Even though he was now far from danger, Albert was heartbroken. He had loved Germany, its people, its culture, its science. But now it was a place of hate. He helped many other Jewish scientists escape from Europe and find jobs in other countries. He believed that science must be free and that no one should be hurt for their religion or ideas. In 1940, Albert Einstein became an American citizen. He still loved his Swiss background, but now he was proud to be part of a free country. But the world was not free yet. A Second World War, World War II, had begun. During this time, Albert made a very difficult decision. He learned that scientists in Germany were trying to build a powerful new weapon, a nuclear bomb, using the ideas from his own equation, E equals mc squared. Albert was very worried. If Hitler got this weapon first, he could destroy the world. So in 1939, Albert wrote a letter to the President of the United States, Franklin D. Roosevelt. In the letter, he explained the danger and asked the U.S. to start its own research to build a bomb before Germany. This letter led to the creation of the Manhattan Project, the secret program that built the first atomic bomb. But later, Albert felt deep regret. He had not worked on the bomb himself, but he felt that his words had helped start it. When the U.S. dropped atomic bombs on the Japanese cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki in 1945, Albert was shocked and sad. He said, "I made one great mistake in my life when I signed that letter to President Roosevelt." After the war, Albert Einstein became a strong voice for peace. He spoke against nuclear weapons and warned the world about the dangers of war. He wanted countries to work together, not fight. He continued to teach, write, and speak until the last years of his life. He refused to be part of any government's political games. When people asked him to be the president of Israel in 1952, he kindly said no. He believed that he was a scientist, not a politician. In his final years, Albert Einstein lived a quiet and simple life in Princeton, New Jersey. He walked every day, wore old sweaters, and never cared much about money or fame. People around the world knew his name, but he stayed humble. He spent his time reading, writing, and thinking. Even in old age, his mind was sharp and curious. He continued to work on deep questions about the universe, things like how gravity, space, and time are all connected. But he also cared deeply about the world and its future. Einstein spoke out for peace. He gave speeches, wrote letters, and signed petitions to stop war and nuclear weapons. He believed that if countries didn't learn to work together, the world could destroy itself. He supported civil rights in America too. He believed that all people, no matter their skin color or religion, should be treated with respect and fairness. He called racism a disease of white people and stood with black leaders like Paul Robeson and W.B. Du Bois. Albert also loved music. He often played the violin in his free time. He said that music helped him think, and sometimes it gave him the answers science could not. Even though he was a great scientist, he also saw the beauty of life, nature, and art. In 1955, at the age of 76, Albert Einstein passed away from a blood vessel problem in his heart. He died peacefully in a hospital near Princeton. Before his death, he had written, "I want to go when I choose. It is tasteless to prolong life artificially." He refused surgery, choosing instead to let nature take its course. After his death, doctors took his brain, hoping to understand the source of his genius. But many people believe his greatness was not just in his brain, but in his heart, character, and spirit. Today, Albert Einstein is remembered not only as one of the greatest scientists in history, but also as a kind, thoughtful, and brave human being. His famous formula, E equals mc squared, changed physics forever. His ideas helped create new technologies, space science, and even GPS systems we use today. But more than that, his way of thinking, to question, to imagine, and to never stop learning, continues to inspire millions. He once said, "Imagination is more important than knowledge. Knowledge is limited. Imagination encircles the world." And also, the important thing is not to stop questioning. These words remind us that curiosity is powerful and that learning is a lifelong journey. Dear friend, thank you so much for listening to this story. Albert Einstein's life teaches us something very special. You don't have to be perfect, rich, or popular to change the world. You just need to be curious, kind, and brave. So never stop asking questions, never stop learning, and never stop dreaming big. If you enjoyed this story, please like this video, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to my channel for more inspiring and easy to understand English stories. I'll see you in the next video with another amazing journey. Until then, keep learning and keep shining.